I do think there's an aspect of prompt engineering that is a kind of engineering, as in it's an iterative experimental method that you can keep track of results of and train yourself to get better results more quickly. As a, for instance, the folks who invented this thing and folks who invested billions, it took them months to realize that there was something called chain of thought prompting, where they would say, let's go step by step. And just by at the end of their question, asking it for an explanation by adding, let's go step by step, it turns out what that does is that shifts the model into effectively instructional materials where other people went step by step, getting to the level of detail that you're probably looking for, and makes it far more likely that it has a probabilistically logical sequence to it. In the sense that prompt engineering is basically producing something concrete from a messy word salad and trying to get that process more refined. Can you think of another discipline that we use a lot in the workplace that actually has a title for that? I mean, it's been around for 20, 30 years at least.
Oof, a discipline and that makes sense. Like,
people are messy with words, right? And yet you need to make real things. And so there's a whole role.
There's the business analyst role, which tries to translate messiness into something that an engineer can translate into something concrete. Is that where you're going? Like the old school
I think so.
role?
And actually, it's interesting because from business analyst, then which basically is saying, well, let's look at the problem space and talk about that. The next step might be, say, product manager, who tries to take these messy descriptions of the problem space and the job to be done and make it into the definition of a thing that will get that job done. And that step is, I think, a part of engineering. And so I think this is effectively product managers for getting knowledge out of an LLM.
That's an interesting thought as to like how large language models can help inform. I've seen it defined more narrowly in a way that was actually quite promising. I've seen a lot of folks talk about application of large language models to call center transcripts, which apparently not a lot of people look at in aggregate to do sentiment analysis and to get real insight out of, because candidly, it's a massive amount of data and just going through it is impossible, humanly speaking. But which these techniques allow you to do in ways that up until now just wasn't something that was possible to do. But I hadn't thought about the aspect of, say, taking the next step, which is not just sort of generating insight from a collection of data as an input to a deliberative process, but actually feeding the deliberative process directly. It's interesting. It's kind of a bit scary at the same point, as in that's sort of like kind of more of the higher order activities that you want humans to be in control of, but you'd feel more, let's put it this way, you feel it kind of wrong for a machine to be in charge of to an extent. Although it does trigger a reflection of what is right and wrong in this context, which is also not an easy discussion.